Have you ever stopped to think that perhaps your greatest enemy isn't outside, but inside, in the silence of your mind? You think it's the world that gets in your way, circumstances, bad luck, or even people who don't support you. But the truth is harsh. The most dangerous enemy wears your face, speaks with your voice, and carries your name. It's called "Let's sabotage the car and I'll tell you something." It's silent, sneaky, and almost always appears disguised as a convincing excuse. You know, that phrase you repeat to yourself? "It's not the right time, I'm not good enough, I'll try again later." Well, that's not just a thought. It's the knife you're stabbing into the back of your own life. And I'm going to challenge you right off the bat. How many times have you stopped yourself from doing something because you convinced yourself you couldn't? If you've ever experienced this, comment the word "enemy" down here, because it's time to face reality without masks. You don't need the world to be against you. You already play that role very well. And that's why I want you to stay here until the end, because we'll open this wound together and understand where this pattern comes from. But first, think with me. How many plans remained just on paper? How many dreams died before even being attempted? How many times have you failed to act because you believed you weren't capable? This isn't bad luck. It's not destiny. This is you fighting against yourself. It's hard to hear, I know. But I'd rather you hear the truth here than continue living trapped in a comfortable illusion. After all, have you noticed how the mind loves to invent excuses for failure? It convinces you that it's not your fault, that there was no way out, that life is just like that, and you believe it. But deep down, you know it wasn't a lack of opportunity. It was a lack of courage. Now, let me nudge you further. When was the last time you actually tried? No excuses, no half measures, no sabotage. Disguised as prudence. It's easy to blame the world, the government, the economy, the lack of support. But the truth is, the heaviest chain holding you back isn't outside. It's around your own neck. Self-sabotage is like an invisible prison you build yourself brick by brick, with every negative thought, every fear, every procrastination. And you know what's worse? You get used to living inside this prison and call it your comfort zone. Have you noticed this? If so, comment on the word prison down here, because admitting it is the first step to breaking this chain. And I'll be blunt. Until you understand that the biggest saboteur in your life is yourself, nothing changes. The best opportunity in the world may appear, the thing you've always dreamed of may knock on your door, and you'll find a way to ruin it. Not because you're incapable, but because you've learned to sabotage every move that could move you forward. And here comes the provocation I want to leave with. How long will you accept being your own enemy? How long will you let self-sabotage dictate the course of your life? So, pay attention. Today is not just another video. It's an invitation for you to look in the mirror without lies. And I'm going to need you to commit to me on this journey. So comment now, true, if you have the courage to face reality, because whoever stays until the end will leave here with a completely different view of themselves, and maybe that's the first step to stopping fighting against yourself and finally starting to play for your own life. The cycle of self-sabotage is treacherous because it starts small, almost invisible, but before you know it, you're trapped in it, like a maze with no way out. First comes procrastination, that gentle voice that says, "Relax, you can do it tomorrow. It's okay." But tomorrow never comes. Or when it does, it's too late. This constant delay creates a feeling of heaviness, a pile-up of tasks, commitments, and goals that never get off the ground. And the more you put it off, the harder it seems to start. You enter a state of paralysis, as if you're always waiting for the perfect moment, which, let's face it, never exists. This is where the cycle begins to feed itself. You feel bad for not acting, but instead of reacting, you hold yourself back even more. And then comes the excuse, the ready-made justification to ease your conscience. I didn't do it because I wasn't ready. I didn't start because I don't have time yet. Haven't tried because it's not the right time, and you believe these lies you tell yourself as if they were absolute truths. But deep down, you know you're fooling yourself. How many times have you sworn you'd change, but found excuses to stay the same? If this has happened to you, write sorry in the comments now, because recognizing it is the first step to breaking this prison. After the excuses comes the cruelest part, the broken promises. Because at the beginning of each week, month, or even year, you promise yourself that this time it will be different. You make plans, make lists, write down goals, buy planners, download productivity apps. Everything seems wonderful at first. You even feel that boost of motivation that lasts a few hours, or with luck, a few days. But when the first difficulty appears, you abandon everything. And worse, you don't just abandon your plans, you abandon yourself. Each broken promise is like a blow to your own confidence, an invisible wound that gradually undermines your self-esteem. Little by little, you stop believing in yourself, and this is extremely serious, because if you no longer believe in yourself, how can you expect anyone else to? This is where the cycle of self-sabotage takes hold. Procrastination breeds excuses. Excuses fuel broken promises. Broken promises create self-doubt, and this self-doubt pushes you back to procrastination. It's a vicious circle, a wheel that spins endlessly, keeping you stuck in the same place. And here I want you to stop and reflect honestly. How many times have you been stuck in this cycle? How many years of your life have you been stuck in this pattern of repeating the same mistakes? You say you want to change, but you always act the same way. You say you'll stop procrastinating, but you keep putting it off. You say you'll stop making excuses, but you always find a new one. And when you break your promise, the feeling of frustration only grows, further reinforcing the cycle. It's as if you're both the jailer and the prisoner, holding the key to freedom, but choosing to remain chained. Does it hurt to hear this? Of course it does, but it's necessary, because until you see clearly, you'll remain trapped. Self-sabotage is the poison you drink every day, waiting for the world to suffer the consequences. Only it's not the world that pays, it's you. So tell me, for how long? How long will you sabotage yourself? How long will you hide behind excuses? If you have the courage to admit that you have been deceived thousands of times by these same traps, comment now on the word cycle. Because from here on we will talk about how to break this gear that keeps you stuck in the same old life. The mirror never lies. It's cold, direct, even cruel, because it reflects exactly what's in front of it, without makeup, without filter, without excuse. And that's why so many people shy away from the mirror. I'm not just talking about the physical mirror in the bathroom or bedroom, but the symbolic mirror, that moment when you look inside yourself and realize you're not who you want to be. The mirror shows the truth, but you prefer to look away to avoid facing your own weakness. It's easier to run away, distract yourself with social media, make excuses, and deceive yourself with empty motivational phrases than to face the harshness of the reflection. But, like it or not, the mirror is always there, reminding you of who you really are, not who you pretend to be to others. And I want you to be honest with me now. How many times have you looked in the mirror and felt ashamed, not of your appearance, but of the person you've become? If you've felt this way, comment the word mirror, because that is the first step to stop running away and start facing yourself head-on. When you face the mirror of truth, there's no hiding. It shows you your victories, but it also rubs in your face the defeats you try to forget. It doesn't erase the days you procrastinated. It doesn't mask the promises you broke. It doesn't make excuses for you. The reflection is too honest to play your game. That's why so many people choose to avoid it. But see the irony. It's precisely in this reflection that the chance to change lies. If the mirror shows you your weakness, it's because it also shows you where you need to grow. The problem is that most prefer the comfort of lies. You convince yourself that everything is fine when it isn't. You say that tomorrow starts when you know it won't. The mirror doesn't laugh in your face, it doesn't judge you, it simply shows you what exists. The judgment, that one, comes from within you, and that's why running away is so common. But every time you run away, you reinforce the idea that you're not ready to face yourself, and until you have that courage, nothing changes. Think with me, how can someone transform their own life if they can't even face their own truth? I'll be blunt. If you don't look in the mirror, you choose to live in illusion. It's harsh, but it's real. The reflection isn't the enemy. The enemy is your cowardice in not holding your gaze for more than a few seconds. Because when you really look, you see how much you failed to do, how much you stopped trying, how much you chose to sabotage yourself. But I want you to understand that this discomfort is necessary. It's in the shock of the reflection that change begins. That queasy feeling in your stomach when you realize you're not the person you want to be is exactly what can move you to become a better person. Don't run away from the mirror. Use it as a guide. It doesn't lie, it doesn't distort, it doesn't make excuses. It shows you what you are today and challenges you to be different tomorrow. So I'm going to challenge you now. The next time you look in the mirror, don't look away. Stare until it hurts, until you feel exposed, because that's when the courage to change is born. And if you've ever felt that shock of looking at your reflection and realizing that your image doesn't match who you'd like to be, comment on the word "Now Mirror," because this simple act is a way of assuming that you are ready to face the truth and not continue running away from it. The secret to change isn't willpower, because willpower is fickle. It changes depending on your mood, the day's energy, how much sleep you've had, or what's happening at work. If you rely solely on willpower, you'll always vacillate between starting something enthusiastically and giving up at the first hurdle. Real change comes from conscious awareness of who you are, how you act, and what patterns you repeat without realizing it. Until you have the courage to observe yourself clearly, you will continue to believe that simply wanting to change your life is enough. But you already know and have experienced it firsthand that wanting alone doesn't get you anywhere. How many times have you wanted to change a habit, start a new routine, improve your discipline, and still ended up making the same old mistakes? This happens because your willpower is weak in the face of the automatic habits that govern your mind. The first step is conscience, and I want you to prove to yourself that you are willing to take that step. Comment now on the word conscience, because admitting that you need to know yourself is already an act of courage that few have. But awareness alone isn't enough. You can spend your entire life analyzing yourself, understanding your weaknesses, and recognizing your mistakes, but if you don't act accordingly consistent, nothing changes. The secret is to transform this clarity into small, repeated actions day after day, even when the willpower doesn't appear. Because the truth is hard. You don't change because you want to. You change because you act. Every day you choose to do what needs to be done, even unintentionally. You strengthen a new version of yourself, and this new version isn't born from a miraculous turnaround, but from the accumulation of right choices that you repeat until they become second nature. Change isn't a bolt from the blue, it's a slow, often tiring, but extremely powerful process. And here's the key. Consistency trumps motivation, because motivation is fleeting, but repeated discipline builds identity. You are not what you say you'll do, you are what you consistently do. And here's the point many don't understand. Change isn't about waiting for a magical moment when everything will make sense, but about creating a process you sustain even when the world conspires against you. When you fail and start over, when you resist the urge to give up, when you understand that each small step is part of something bigger, that's when change becomes real. Awareness and consistency are like two gears that need to turn together. Awareness shows you where you are and where you need to go. Consistency pushes you every day, even if it's just 1 inch at a time, until you get closer to the life you want to live. And if you stop and think about it, your entire life is a result of what you've repeated so far. If you repeat sabotage, you'll fail. If you repeat discipline, you'll evolve. So I'll challenge you. Instead of seeking miracles, choose to repeat what works. Change doesn't happen overnight. It happens when you decide to be the same committed person today, tomorrow, and the day after. And I ask again, are you willing to truly know yourself and sustain that commitment? If you are, a comment, conscience now, because this word will mark the beginning of your turnaround. Transforming habits isn't about taking a giant leap overnight, but about learning to break patterns into small daily fissures. A habit doesn't fall suddenly. It breaks with small daily choices in seemingly insignificant moments that, when added together, rewrite your story. Think about it. No one becomes undisciplined overnight, just as no one builds discipline magically. Everything stems from what you repeat. If you always give in to the temptation to put things off, you create the habit of procrastination. If you always choose the easy way out, you reinforce self-sabotage. But if instead you start making small, different choices, getting out of bed even when you don't feel like it, starting the task you've been putting off, resisting the urge to distract yourself, then you begin to break the cycle. Real transformation happens when you realize that every act, no matter how small, is a brick in the construction of your new life. And this is where I want to challenge you. Write break up in the comments if you're willing to break at least one bad habit this week. The biggest mistake many people make is believing that changing habits requires an extraordinary event, as if you had to wait for the new year, a crisis, or overwhelming motivation to get started. The truth is different. Habits are transformed in everyday life, in the banal choices you make without thinking. The power lies not in one monumental decision, but in the sum of the micro-decisions you repeat every day. It's like digging a rock. It's not a hammer blow that breaks it, but constant repetition that creates cracks until it gives way. You might even think, but I've already tried to change and failed. And I tell you, you didn't fail because you're incapable. You failed because you tried to change your entire life all at once, instead of consistently attacking the habit at its root. That's why so many promises die quickly. You start out excited but without structure, clarity, or commitment to sustaining the small changes that really make a difference. It's the classic, "this time it will work," that falls apart at the first hurdle. But the real breakthrough happens when you understand that changing a habit isn't about starting out perfect, but about sticking with it even when you fail and recommitting the next day. And I'll be blunt, you need to stop romanticizing change and start practicing the discipline of small choices. The secret isn't to eliminate a bad habit all at once, but to weaken it day by day until it no longer has any power over you. Think of someone who decides to stop procrastinating. They won't suddenly wake up super productive, but they can start by resolving to complete at least one important task a day, and by repeating this, they build a new pattern. Or someone who wants to take better care of their health. They don't need to run 10 kilometers the first day, but they can start by walking 10 minutes, then 15, then 20, until their body and mind start asking for more. It's in this process that you realize the magic of small ruptures. You don't change because you suddenly became a different person, but because you decided not to repeat yesterday's mistake. So I ask you, what habit are you willing to start breaking now? If the answer came to you, prove you're serious about the change and comment. Rupture down here, because this public commitment will be the first step in not running away from yourself. Enough theory. Now I want to put you to the test, because change without practice is nothing more than an illusion. For the next 7 days, break a habit that's destroying you. It doesn't matter which one. It could be that time wasted scrolling mindlessly, that ready-made excuse you repeat every day, or that procrastination that drains your energy. Choose a habit that you know is killing you inside and decide to eliminate it, even if it's Just for a week. This is the test. Because if you can't give up a habit for 7 days, how do you expect to change your entire life? The challenge is simple to understand, but brutal to accomplish, and precisely for that reason, it's powerful. Because every time you resist the old pattern, you prove to yourself that you're not a slave to your own vices. And I want you to publicly declare your courage now. Comment the word challenge down here if you accept this test. This word is your visible commitment. It is the beginning of the rupture. Many people are mistaken in thinking that big changes happen in big moments, but what truly changes a life are small challenges accepted and met. The secret isn't perfection, it's persistence. These 7 days will be a battleground between who you are today and who you can become. It will hurt, it will bother you, it will make you want to give up. And do you know why? Because the habits that destroy you aren't just actions, they're chains. When you try to break one, you'll feel like something's missing. You'll hear your mind screaming that it's impossible, But that's when you need to resist. Because it's not just about breaking a habit, it's about taking control. You're not an animal driven solely by instinct. You have choice, awareness, discipline. Every time you say no to the habit that destroys you, you're saying yes to your evolution. So I'll repeat, if you accept this battle, comment challenge, and proves that you are not here just to hear pretty words, but to take action. And I'm going to tell you something no one has ever told you. You don't need to change everything now. You need to win today, just today, because tomorrow you win again, and the day after tomorrow again. This is how consistency is born. This is how discipline is built. This is how a new identity is created. This 7-day challenge is symbolic, but it can be the beginning of a profound transformation. If you can break a destructive habit for a week, you'll have already proven that you're capable of taking control. After that, you can replace that empty space with a habit that strengthens you, and thus begin a cycle of growth instead of self-sabotage. But to do that, you need to have the courage to start now, not tomorrow, not when you feel ready, not when it seems easier. It's here and now. So I ask you directly, will you continue to be a slave to your own vices, or will you prove that you are capable of mastering them? If you truly choose the second option, leave your mark here in the comments. Challenge, because this is the pact that can separate the life you have today from the life you can still achieve. We've reached the end of this journey, and now there's no more room for illusions. Either you master your habits, or they will master you. The choice is yours. It always has been. You can continue being a puppet of procrastination, excuses and broken promises, or you can fully assume the role of protagonist of your own life. Make no mistake, no one will appear to save you. There is no shortcut, no magic formula. What exists is your daily decision to face yourself with courage, to nip at the root what sabotages you, and to sustain small changes until they become part of who you are. Think about what we've discussed here: the cycle of self-sabotage, the mirror of truth, the secret of change, the transformation of habits, and the practical challenge. All of these aren't just words. They are weapons you can use to achieve your freedom. Freedom to not be a slave to your mind, your vices, and your weaknesses. And if you understand this, if that voice has already arisen within you that tells you you're tired of fooling yourself, then it's time to act. Not tomorrow, not next week, not when conditions are perfect. It's now, because life doesn't wait. And here I'll give you the final call. If this video resonated with you, if it somehow touched your wounds, and at the same time lit the flame of change within you, then prove that you won't let it die. Like it to show you're committed. Share this video with someone who also needs to break the chains of self-sabotage, and comment on the word freedom down here. Because freedom is exactly what you achieve when you decide to master your habits instead of being mastered by them. This word will be the symbol of your public commitment, the sign that you've not only listened, but decided to act. And remember, I'm not here to stroke your ego, but to throw the truth in your face, as Diogenes would do without any fear of appearing harsh. The truth is, you only have two options. Continue deceiving yourself and remain trapped in the cycle, or face the mirror, take on the challenge, and free yourself. Life is before you, and no one but you can choose. So if you truly want to overcome self-sabotage and build a stronger version of yourself, comment freedom now, because this is the mark of someone who no longer runs away from the truth and finally decides to live according to it.